2023 may have been a terrible year for the movie business, but it was at least an excellent year for movies themselves. While original films like Barbie and Oppenheimer have broken box office records and dominated the online discourse, once reliable franchises have been flaming out with audiences one after the other, and the threat of superhero fatigue is now more undeniable than ever. But neither the Avengers or the Justice League suffered as hard in 2023 as another cinematic super team made up of the biggest names in action movies, as Stallone and Statham team up for their hopefully final adventure, The Expendables 4, or as it was stupidly titled in its advertising, Expend4bles. 9 long years have passed since the last Expendables sequel tanked with critics and audiences, after getting leaked online a week early and toning down the violence for a PG-13 rating, a mistake that Stallone promised not to repeat for what he touted to be his final performance as Barney Ross, so as to hand over the franchise's reins at the ripe age of 77 to Jason Statham as Lee Christmas. So surely the cast lineup for Sly's farewell movie would be the most badass one to date. Iko Uwais from The Raid, Tony Jaa from Ong Bak, 50 Cent from those escape plan movies with Stallone, I guess, Megan Fox from Michael Bay's Transformers and Ninja Turtles movies where she hardly did any action herself, and Andy Garcia from the high-octane action classic When a Man Loves a Woman. This Jet Li and Arnold free cast lineup was certainly underwhelming, as well as unable to promote the film due to the Hollywood strikes, leading to the fourth Expendables receiving the worst critical and box office reception of the series on the worst box office weekend of 2023, thus marking a sad end for these titans of action cinema. So why wait another few years to tear this flick apart when I can immediately discuss what could very well be one of this year's worst movies, as well as a new low for the careers of its legendary cast? You heard that right, JoBlo subscribers. Expendables 4 could very well be worse for Dolph Lundgren than Masters of the Universe, worse for Jason Statham than that Uwe Boll movie he did, and even worse for Sylvester Stallone than Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Changed. If you thought Arnold was laughing hard over tricking Stallone into doing that movie, he was likely laughing even harder when he saw how this movie did at the box office without him.
Arnold.
Time to gather a crew of the hardest liquors out there for this expendable round of the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink as we open in the deserts of Libya at Gaddafi's old chemical plant, aka the strain of medical marijuana that Stallone smokes for his arthritis, where a murderous general spends some much-needed family time inside of his ornate home when his guards outside are bombarded by laughably bad CGI helicopters, as well as some real-looking tanks, being driven by the underlings of this sequel's villainous mercenary, Swarto Ramat, played by Iko Uwais.
Where is General Fizan?
But why should we continue on the momentum of that exciting opening, when we can cut over to the New Orleans home turf of the leader of the Expendables, Barney Ross, with Stallone already looking tired as he rides out on this bike he stole from the set of Cobra and heads over to the home of Sweet Christmas. Are you kidding me with that green screen? Did Stallone film part of his role at the same time as his cameo for Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Anyway, he's at the home of his second-in-command, Jason Statham, as Lee Christmas. Yes, that's still his character's name, who between movies has got himself a new girlfriend.
Oh, look at me! I'm English! I'm avoidant! I don't like to argue!
Unfortunately, she happens to be Megan Fox, in the role of Gina, who despite acting like one of the Real Housewives, actually happens to be a CIA agent who works under Barney as a member of the Expendables.
You might be my boss?
She's an expendable, Christmas.
And I thought Kelsey Grammer in the last movie was fucked up casting. Megan Fox, of all people getting cast alongside all these action icons, is the cinema equivalent of hiring Gary Cherone to sing lead for Van Halen.
Fuck you!
But more about her later, because Barney needs Christmas to intervene down at their local watering hole so he can obtain his beloved skull ring back from behind the bar, where it's amusingly been placed on a wooden dildo.
That's unacceptable.
Striking resemblance.
After Barney lost the ring in a thumb wrestling match,
You used to be strong, what happened?
Things change.
because he is way too old to make a remake of Over the Top, against an angry biker by the appropriate name of Jumbo Shrimp.
The other guy, second guy.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Jumbo Shrimp. The name actually refers to my penis. So Barney gives him a pair of brass knuckles so that he can handle the whoop-ass and witty wisecracks.
You lost the Santa's helper? Bite size, Yoda, Dinky.
While Barney sits back because he claims to have thrown out his back.
Since when?
A few weeks ago, I can't even lift a fork.
And if you folks have seen the recent Sly documentary on Netflix, you know that Stallone has actually done some serious damage to his body, trying to act and direct in the first Expendables way back in 2010.
Bronchitis and thrush and fractured neck. I never fully recovered from Expendables 1. I've never been sane. Never.
So this probably explains why he's only got one fight scene in this sequel, up against a bartender played by Eddie Hall, aka the world's strongest man.
Bring it!
I'm sorry, but no. There's no way that a 77-year-old man, even at the peak physical shape that Stallone has, would be able to lift the world's literally strongest man up over his back. I can't buy that any more than I could buy Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood fighting off an army of ninjas.
It's a miracle. It just went away. I like spending time with you.
Next time, take me on a pony ride.
Well, actually, I really did just snap my hip into two after lifting that guy over my head, so you better call me an ambulance while I begin to proceed screaming in horrific agony.
Barney and Lee meet up at HQ with the rest of the returning Expendables. Gunner, played by the great Dolph Lundgren, now donning long blonde locks for his role in the Aquaman sequel that he keeps insisting is just a wig.
She likes that 70s look, you know, the Farrah Fawcett thing.
Toll Road, the demolitions expert played by MMA fighter Randy Couture, who's still telling that unfunny monologue about his cauliflower ear from the first movie.
We all know I wrestled in college. Common injury associated with that sport.
Common affliction in that sport is contusions to the ear.
And as for Terry Crews as Caesar, it's not hard to tell from Terry's reduced role in Expendables 3, as well as his 2018 testimony in front of Congress about his sexual assault charges towards Stallone's former agent, that bridges have been pretty well burnt between him and franchise co-producer Avi Lerner.
Called my manager, asked him to drop my case for me to be in the fourth installment. If I didn't, there would be trouble.
And since Jet Li and Arnold are also gone, since they were barely doing anything in this franchise anyway, we now have rapper and entrepreneur plus actor Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, trading his mic for a gun in the role of Easy Day.
Hey, it's Easy Day. Good man, ex-Special Forces.
Whose silly name actually comes from the old Navy SEAL saying,
Only easy day was yesterday.
and though Mr. Jackson has improved as an actor and social media personality over the past couple of decades, none of that improvement is seen here in his low-energy performance.
I got a prescription scope.
Well, guys, remember this face. Don't shoot it by accident. What?
It's as if the guy who shot him 9 times was specifically aiming for his tongue. As for Antonio Banderas as the hyperactive Galgo from the last movie, he's off filming Indiana Jones 5. So they've instead replaced him with his son, Galan,
I am Galan.
That's Galgo's son.
played by Jacob Scipio from Bad Boys for Life. And as for Harrison Ford replacing Bruce Willis in the last film as the team's CIA liaison, he's also off filming Indiana Jones 5. So now Andy Garcia is stopping by for a paycheck as Barney's old pal in the CIA named Marsh,
Are they hanging?
Gravity setting in.
Keep them tucked.
who in between his dick jokes orders the team to take out Ramat and his men before they access the nuclear codes inside this general's safe to steal them for a rogue CIA agent who goes by the name of Ocelot.
Some will say Ocelot's a ghost that Barney created to cover his own ass. Ocelot exists, and Barney will bury him someday.
So our team flies off to Libya in their Expendaplane, where Stallone and Statham get back into the friendly banter between them that's been one of this franchise's consistently good aspects, while Antonio Banderas Jr. is regaling the rest of the team in the back with a hilarious tale of getting pissed on by a girl during sex. I'm not kidding.
She squats down on top of you and releases her bladder.
You look like the type who has had one before.
As if that wasn't horrifying enough, the next scene has Ramat having killed the general's wife off screen, and then killing the general's son with a bullet to the head. Golden shower jokes? Children getting killed. If only this horrific editing was the worst this film had to offer, because for a franchise that has never had particularly good CGI, this shit looks inexcusably bad for a theatrically released film in 2023. All the actors look like they were shot at different times at different places. 50 Cent tossing this bad guy back and forth looks like Bam Bam tossing his dad around on the Flintstones. And did Puss in Boots Jr. here just make a fucking Mean Girls reference?
Get in, losers! We're going shopping!
Yep, he sure did. How much lower can this movie possibly sink? And even though Stallone is the guy who got this Expendables idea rolling in the first place, you can probably suspect from his second billing in the credits, his complete lack of writing credit on the screenplay, and Stallone nearly quitting the sequel due to the same creative differences that led to his exit from Creed 3, that Barney Ross is going to be sitting out this big fight scene to provide air support from above, when his plane is hit with a missile and then a bullet from Ramat's rifle.
Damn it, Barney!
And Barney throws out one last dying order to Christmas.
Get the detonators, please! That's an order!
Before entering the same franchise heaven as Rocky and Rambo. But try as Christmas does to run back in slow-mo through time to save Barney's life, it's too late. With Christmas and his teammates examining the charred remains of their former leader with his skull ring still intact, and Dolph Lundgren nowhere to be seen, because he's off reusing the same footage from earlier of him running from behind. Was Dolph busy that day filming his Zaxby's commercial?
Now I must eat you.
Is that Dolph Lundgren?
Look, aside from the Terry Crews drama, I understand why Stallone would want to tap out of this series as he nears his 80s. The man's got two far more successful TV shows over at Paramount Plus to make in his golden years instead. But could we not give his character a more dignified send-off than a funeral at his favorite bar where Barney's charred hand is displayed with the middle finger extended on behalf of Stallone to this franchise? While Don't Fear the Reaper is being played by a shitty cover band,
Barney hated cover bands.
and the extras out on this dance floor look like they're zombies who have wandered from the set of Shaun of the Dead. Christmas gets himself canceled from the team by Marsh after disobeying Barney's dying orders to complete the mission, which means that the obvious successor to lead the Expendables will now be Dolph Lundgren.
Gina?
Oh, you're shitting me. Megan Fox is going to take Stallone's place instead of Stallone's real-life friend, who has tearfully said in a recent book that Sly casting him in this franchise saved his career, and who just overcame a nearly fatal bout with kidney cancer. Dolph dressed himself up like Joe Bob Briggs for nothing.
Nothing!
So now the unemployed Christmas must find himself a new job out in today's gig economy.
Private security detail, a social media influencer.
And lands one immediately as the security guard for an obnoxious Instagram influencer who looks like a 12-year-old boy dressed as an adult with a beard made out of his dad's pubic hair.
Hey, have some respect for the ladies.
Respect the ladies. I respect them, all right.
This feels like a scene from the third Crank movie that Statham should have made instead of Expendables 4. Moving on so that Lee Christmas can break into his girlfriend's safe to find himself a declassified file on his dead boss, with Gina catching him in the act to explain that the file has clues to the secret identity of Ocelot.
I want in.
Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't invited.
After they get into a sexy spy fight that's basically a slightly naughtier version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is kind of awkward to watch after Megan Fox just admitted her own history of abusive relationships, Lee and Gina have themselves a makeup bang, and he gives her his trusty army knife, so that he can track her down with a surveillance device while she and the rest of the crew flies over to a CIA black site, alongside yet another new female member of the crew by the name of Lash.
Oh, it's way bigger than that, darling.
No, that's a Chinese bird.
Played by Levy Tran, an actress who we all remember being mentioned for the cast of that canceled female Expendables spin-off. Michelle Yeoh, Sigourney Weaver, Michelle Rodriguez, and some woman from the MacGyver reboot. Meanwhile, Christmas is boating off to Thailand to track down a retired expendable who was one of Barney's closest associates in his past.
I'm looking for a man named Desha.
Desha is long gone.
Played by one of the few actual action superstars in this cast, Tony Jaa, who insists that he's since given up his old life of murder and warmongering in exchange for a spiritual life of peace.
but I put that man behind me. There's only so many times you can kill a man. You become numb to pain, to joy, and to love.
Blah, blah, blah. We've heard all this before from John Rambo in his past 5 movies, so I'm sure Tony Jaa will come around when it's time to convenience the plot. I don't know, just a hunch. So Christmas and Dayshaw catch their boat up with a ship containing Ramat and his terrorist associates that they've disguised to look like an American aircraft carrier. Right after Megan Fox and her Expendables parachute onto this badly CGI'd boat, only to find themselves immediately getting ambushed by the terrorists.
What a fucking mess this turned out to be.
Somebody knew we were coming, both times.
This is just a cheap gimmick to keep most of our Expendables sidelined from the action, so that Statham can handle most of these henchmen himself, while Marsh is also separated from the team, and yet he's somehow able to still grab onto that railing despite his character being unconscious. Does everyone on this film crew not give as much of a shit as Andy Garcia clearly doesn't? Now, I would say that Statham at least does handle his part of the movie quite well, still dishing out whoop-ass and wisecracks in his late 50s.
That could go off in your hand.
But considering that this was the 3rd Statham movie to come out this year, it's not that special, which you shouldn't be saying about a film where Jason Statham rides a motorcycle on a boat that has a gun turret attached to the front, which would make it impossible to steer the bike and aim the gun at the same time, but whatever. This shoddy green screen behind Statham can make anything look possible. How is it that the piracy PSA that Arnold did with Jackie Chan had better green screen than this? But Tony Jaa joining up with Statham with his newly painted raccoon eyes helps this movie briefly live up to the concept of seeing action movie stars doing cool shit together. And Iko Uwais' villainous turn helps contribute some memorable martial arts mastery to the movie that makes up for his generic villainous dialogue, which his limited English can do little to work with.
It's your call whether the Expendables need to live up to their namesake or not.
I don't have the authority.
I know you don't.
As for the rest of the Expendables, they're off trying to escape their prison.
It's gotta get wet.
What?
Anybody got a pee?
By having Toll Road take a piss on a grate so they can open it up and make their escape, which is what wakes Stallone up from his mournful vow of silence that he's had for the past 45 minutes of the movie because of his previously established love for golden showers.
Because he does like golden showers.
It's like the film literally pissed away what little was left of its dignity. So finally, our Expendables all re-team up back inside the ship to find out what they're going to do about the active nuclear bomb inside the ship's belly that Ramat plans to sail into the Russian Far East to create an international incident that will kick off World War III, and hopefully give Christopher Nolan an idea to make an Oppenheimer sequel. So what does our team do to distract the guards and kick off a firefight?
I don't know what you heard about me.
Why, playing a song from none other than 50 Cent himself, even though 50 Cent is not, in fact, playing himself, and not even one of his newer songs, but PIMP, which is off of his debut album from 20 years ago. What next? Are we gonna have Megan Fox put the guards to sleep by playing the audiobook of her book of poems? But ultimately, this sequel has the exact same flaws that have weakened all of these Expendables movies: the quick-cut editing and the horribly rendered digital effects, which completely undercut the old-school action movie appeal. And Dolph Lundgren, the only core action star from the 80s left in this cast, is now given an embarrassing subplot where his newly sober lifestyle gets in the way of his shooting expertise, and he takes a huge swig of He-Man juice during this final gunfight. Hooray! I'm supposed to be happy that the lifelong alcoholic is back to his debilitating habits. Actually, the final fight between Christmas and Swarto Ramat is probably the closest that any of Iko Uwais' fight scenes come to having the same energy as his incredible work in The Raid.
You're gonna give me the kill switch and we're gonna end all this. Come and get it, hero.
Or at least until Statham finally brings him down with an axe he borrowed from Gunner that he calls a Traumahawk.
Is that my Traumahawk?
Yes, it's actually called a Traumahawk, and you can actually buy it online just in time for the holidays. But now with Ramat killed off, that must mean that the secret identity of Ocelot is none other than the man who always plays villains in every other movie he does.
Hello, bye. Bye.
How could you, Andy Garcia? And I don't mean you secretly being the villain, I mean you saying that god-awful NSYNC joke. So Christmas yet again breaks off with the rest of the team as they sail away in Daysha's boat.
May my sacrifice count!
While he runs to turn the ship away from its nuclear collision.
Christmas! Right here, Marsh. Ho, ho, ho!
Oh really, movie? You wait until the final 15 minutes for Andy Garcia to finally break out the holiday-related jokes about Statham's funny last name? Yeah, this is about as much of a Christmas movie as Die Hard. A good day to Die Hard.
Look what Santa brought me.
But what's this? Marsh gets shot into a bloody mess by this helicopter flown by none other than...
You almost fucking killed me! You're welcome! Are you crazy? Could have killed me! You're welcome!
the heavenly green screen spirit of Stallone the White. Yes, those of you who saw his Netflix documentary know that Stallone has always had a thing about ending his characters' stories on a happy note. Which is why Rocky survived his bout with cancer, and Rambo somehow survived single-handedly taking on a Mexican cartel.
I so believe that we don't see our heroes die. I'm in the hope business, and I just hate sad endings, sorry.
So how is it now that Barney Ross has come to save the day?
I had to fake my own death to open up a classified file, driving Marsh out of hiding so I could prove he's ocelot.
Yep, it was all part of an elaborate plan to reveal Andy Garcia was the ocelot all along. And totally not an excuse for Stallone to get out of pretending to laugh at 50 Cent's incomprehensible action quips for an entire movie. Oh, and I'm pretty sure that Barney and Lee have just nuked off the world's entire fish population by having that bomb go off underwater. So, happy ending for everybody!
Ain't love beautiful?
But wait a minute. That means that Barney still has to explain who it was that burnt up to death behind the wheel of that plane.
Who the corpse is? You ever wonder what happened to Jumbo Shrimp?
Yes, folks, this is the actual ending to the past 13 years of the Expendables saga. A flashback of Barney Ross taking the unconscious body of that biker Jumbo Shrimp wearing a similar skull ring and set of military fatigues to take Barney's place while Stallone jumps off the plane and Jumbo Shrimp gets boiled alive, much like actual Jumbo Shrimp.
You did? Oh, yes, I did.
No, Thin Lizzy, the boys are not back in town. Not only was this Jumbo Shrimp guy barely enough of a character to justify him senselessly dying in Barney's place, but while the Expendables have been established in these movies as morally ambiguous soldiers of fortune who kill people and blow up things without any questions, they have never gone to these cartoonishly assholish lengths.
You are a selfish prick. We have to be. We do this for money. We do this for money.
And it certainly doesn't close out the last remaining franchise that Stallone has had left on an appropriately epic or emotional note. How is it that for a franchise called The Expendables, we have only had one single member of this team die on screen, and it was Liam fucking Hemsworth? I'm starting to think that the lyrics in the theme song from the first movie's trailer were nothing more than a complete lie.
Every one of us is expendable.
We do this for money.
Only the second Expendables from 2012 has actually lived up the closest to the potential that an Avengers-type supergroup of action movie stars from the past and present should actually have. But this fourth film, which originally had the way better title of The Expendables, A Christmas Story, is a new low, not just for this series, but for action movies as a genre. In a time when John Wick and Mission Impossible are able to still deliver explosive action and great fight choreography, despite their lead actors now being in their 60s themselves, there's no excuse for Expendables 4 to be this poorly executed, even if it is arriving 9 years too late, with Stallone giving a cameo just as half-assed as the movie's editing and effects, and the entire Expendables gimmick being ignored for most of the film. If the Expendables will indeed die when they're dead like this stupid tagline promises, then I would say that Expend4bles has left this team pretty well dead for good. Terry Crews, would you like to do the honors of blowing apart this cinematic turd?
Rest in pieces.
On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Expendables 4 is a film that would be below even the standards of Steven Seagal, and reloads its chamber with an Expend4bles out of Expend10bles. Ending on this flame out of a finale is a bunch of Expenda bullshit. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and thanks again for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the JoBlo Originals channel. Tell all your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company that appreciates all of your support. And now that the holidays are here again, it's time to find an awfully good holiday movie to review, and I think I may have found just the right one.
It's an expendable Christmas.
And put it together for Santa. You're welcome. Unbelievable. Oh!
You sold him out so you can be on top.
Oh, back off. She wouldn't do that.
What? Fuck him on top?
Fuck you.